Hello, and welcome to Back to Basics, a series of videos in which I explore and revisit the most iconic technological innovations of Veeam and the fundamentals that have contributed to Veeam's success for the past 15 years. Today, we are going to talk about one of the most iconic technological innovations from Veeam. It is a technological innovation that has completely transformed the traditional approach to restoration, and which we can say has shaken up the data protection industry about 15 years ago. This technological innovation is instant recovery. Today, there are several forms of instant recovery. Instant recovery for virtual machines, instant recovery for physical machines, instant recovery for Oracle databases, SQL Server databases, and PostgreSQL databases, and finally, instant recovery for NAS. In this video, I will talk to you about instant recovery for physical machines. Let's get started. To explain all of this, we start with a little whiteboard to clarify some concepts. On this whiteboard, we will start by essentially describing the traditional restoration process known as the bare metal restore, or BMR. This is the restore that we need to perform when we have to fully restore a physical server on the same server, the same hardware, or on completely different hardware with different characteristics. So obviously the starting point is a backup. To restore, you need a backup. And here, what is illustrated are physical machines, x86, Windows or Linux, which are backed up here in this repository on the right using Veeam's mechanisms. So in the event that we lose one of these servers due to hardware issues, a defective motherboard, or a changed ADA controller, we need to perform a restoration, a complete restoration, a bare metal restore, BMR. For this, we need hardware, which could be a server with identical specifications, or a different server with completely different specifications that I will represent here, and position lower down. And on this particular server, we will write to the physical machine, and on this specific server, we will perform a complete and thorough restoration, bare metal restore process. So, the bare metal restore, BMR, without going into the details of the bare metal restore, is essentially a complete restoration of the entire image on the server with all the layers, and we will essentially represent it like this: metal restore. So this metal bar restoration is indeed a restoration process that will take a substantial amount of time and effort and patience. This is a restoration that will take, we are talking about RTO, several potential hours, and that will depend on the size and the overall amount of volume of data that is present here. Therefore, the duration of the operation will directly depend on the read performance of the repository. It will depend on the bandwidth and the write performance on the new server. Of course, it also depends on the volume of data to be restored. This bare metal restore operation can take a lot of time, and we can even add to that time the delays in provisioning a new server. For example, maintenance configuration. The new server needs to be racked. It may need to be cabled. A number of things need to be configured before it can be used. Therefore, when we add up all these operations, the RTO or downtime of this physical server can range from several hours to several days, or even potentially several weeks. So it can be something very impactful. For the company, if it is a critical application, for example, that is running and executed on this server. So this is the classic approach to restoring a physical server, a bare metal restore with RTOs that can be very, very long and impactful. To us, what Veeam is going to offer, of course, with its instant recovery technology, is to drastically reduce this RTO, and that is the value of instant recovery. The promise of instant recovery is to reduce RTO from several hours or several days to just a few minutes of RTO, and significantly reduce this downtime in order to lessen the impact of unavailability on the business, and thus restart the application and revenue generating activities of the company as quickly as possible. So how is it going to work? Here, in the other diagram, you have what we are going to illustrate, which is the instant recovery for physical machines. Instant recovery of physical machines. Here we find our physical machines, x86, Windows or Linux, backed up in the repository, the starting point, and so we resume the same scenario, the unavailability of a server here. What are we going to do? We want to save time. We want the RTO to be as optimal as possible, so we are not going to perform a bare metal restore, but we will do an instant recovery. And the principle of instant recovery, the major, fundamental principle of instant recovery, is Veeam's ability to start workloads directly from the backup. We will start a workload directly from the backup without having to restore it initially. So here, we will start by booting up, then we will perform the restoration, followed by the data transfer, and finally, we will carry out the migration and extraction of data in a second step. So, in order to clearly and effectively demonstrate this process, this direct startup from the backup, we will represent it here. So we will start from this backup, and we will perform a detailed and thorough restoration process on a virtual machine, ensuring all data is accurately recovered. All right? We are going to perform the restoration in a virtual machine, and one of the prerequisites for this operation is to have an available hypervisor. A VMware ESX Hyper-V or even AHV hypervisor, all three hypervisors have the capability to serve as the destination for an instant recovery of physical machines. And so here, we are going to try to illustrate all of this a bit. What are we going to have at the destination? We are going to have a virtual machine that we will represent like this. We will position it here, which is actually the physical machine transformed into a virtual machine. And so here, we will have the first step illustrated here in this video. First, there is a detailed P2V operation, step by step, and the starting of the VM. So this is the first step, a physical or virtual conversion. We are going to convert the physical machine into a virtual machine. We will start on a hypervisor of choice, ESX, Hyper-V, or HV. And the second step is the one that is the most time-consuming. But in this case, it will not have any impact on downtime, since it will take place during a second step in the background, without any interruption, without any effect on the operation of this server, and on the operation of the potential application that is installed on this server. So, to represent all of this in detail, we will start from here and go up to here at the storage level. So this is step number 2. We will carefully and thoroughly go through each stage in this process, step by step. Let's say extract action migration. We will extract the blocks from the backup here in detail, and we will carefully migrate all this data to the production storage step by step, ensuring all necessary steps are thoroughly followed. And this extraction migration operation is carried out without any downtime, without service interruption, because we will use and leverage the mechanisms and features of moving HV without any service interruption. So it is the storage vMotion in VMware, live migration storage in Hyper-V, and the equivalent mechanisms in HV that will ensure that this migration, this movement, this actual restoration will take place without any interruption, without any impact on the virtual machine that is running and fully operational. And so here we move from RTO, we will represent RTO, we are rather on the order of a minute, a few minutes. So this is what we're going to see. What I will show you now in a small live demonstration to make it a bit more concrete for you, so that you have a clear idea of the workflows, the wizards, and how all of this comes together in the Vim console. So here, to do the demo, I will actually use a physical server that has been backed up, which is an Exchange server. Here, I have chosen a physical Exchange server
with the IP address, 0.3. You can see a continuous ping here, so everything is fine. The machine is responding. What I will do is first show you on the Veeam side that this server is backed up. It is backed up here as backup physical exchange. We can see it better here. There you go, backup physical exchange. You can see here that this physical server is indeed backed up by Veeam. It is backed up in agent mode, and you can see the little icon indicating that it is a backup of a physical server and not a VM. Unlike VMs, you have here the little historical VMware logo. Here we are on a backup of the physical machine type. So what we are going to do is simulate the unavailability of this physical server. We are going to turn it off. Going to turn all of this off. Shut down. There you go. In a few seconds. Obviously the ping should stop here. I will leave it displayed to monitor all of this. And I am back here on the VMware infrastructure to show you the current state of the VMware infrastructure. So you see that there are a number of virtual machines, but there is no trace of the Exchange server. Look here, because the restoration and the P2V, the recovery moment, I will do it towards that ESX. So here, we only have two VMs, SharePoint and SQL. There we go. Our physical server is officially unavailable, and from now on, we will trigger the process, and I will start my little stopwatch so that we have a fairly precise idea of the downtime and the duration of the operation. So I'm going back to the Veeam side. We are going to perform a full machine restore. You can see that we have two options: instant recovery via VMware. I will do it under VMware because I have a VMware infrastructure available. I will go fetch the backup. Here, Exchange, next. I will indicate here to Veeam the cluster or the ESX to which I want to restore. I want to start this VM at the end of the physical to virtual conversion, which ESX will run the hypervisor that will execute this VM. So I will definitely choose this one, the 102. I will leave all the other settings just as they are. I will just go here. I still definitely select the network because I want to gain access to this VM after the restoration. So I reconnect it to the VM network in order to... Next, all these steps are not very important for the demo, so I go through them quite quickly. I ask Veeam to connect the VM to the VM network and to start it after the restoration, or actually after the direct boot from the backup. Let's finish this up quickly and efficiently and start the timer right away, immediately. So we will follow. We need to keep track of what is happening here. This is the unfolding of the recovery moment. And the first step, which is the physical to virtual conversion step, and then starting this physical server in a virtual machine. So here, the first step is to register a VM. If we take a look over here, we can see a VM appearing here called Exchange Vim for HOL that has just been created by Vim in the VMware environment. And here we have the conversion step, performing P2V conversion. So here, Veeam will carry out this transformation and conversion from a physical machine to a VMware virtual machine. So there on the Veeam side, the operation is indeed complete. The first step, the booting from backup step, P2V boot conversion is complete. And there, Veeam indicates that it is waiting for the user, for the administrator to trigger the second step, which involves performing the migration, the extract, and the migration to production storage. For now, the machine does not respond to ping, but that is normal. We need to give Windows time to start and also allow all the services to start. But we can already see here that Veeam has started. We already have here the Windows Welcome login screen, which indicates that Windows has started, that it is in the process of booting, and in a few minutes, we should see the ping appear here. And there it is. The ping is responding. We will stop the timer. about 3 minutes and 48 seconds, and this Exchange server is operational again. For now, the migration and restoration are not finished, but the server is already operational since, for example, if I try to connect via RDP, it can be seen that the server is definitely fully available, operational, and usable again. So the idea, once we reach this stage, is to, here, Instant Recovery, right-click, Migrate to Production, to trigger the migration and extraction to the production storage 2, actually finalize this restoration, because as it stands, the VM is running directly from the backup. Well, there you have it. We've covered everything. That was the moment of recovery for physical machines. I will continue in my series to explore other forms and types of recovery moments. The recovery time for virtual machines, the recovery time for SQL databases, Oracle databases, PostgreSQL databases, and the recovery time for NAS. I hope you found this interesting, and I'll see you soon. Bye.